Hi, First Things First on location here. Welcome to the show. I am a little freaked out right now, but thank you for tuning in. I want to help you do what's right for your nonprofit, not what's convenient or easy. Hey, and I want to encourage you to keep fueling your passion and giving back, because the world needs more people like you to make it a great place. Hi. Hi, Tom Iselin here, and welcome to First Things First. Today, I want to talk with you about the effectiveness of face-to-face fundraising versus grant writing and galas. Why? Because I want you to win at the fundraising game. If you're a small nonprofit, you know just how tough fundraising can be. I suspect you have little to no fundraising budget, no professional development staff, a board that's mostly complacent about fundraising, a pool of small donors, or I should say a small pool of donors, both, and very little time to spend on fundraising. Sound familiar? Yes. And fundraising is freaking competitive. You and 1.5 million other nonprofits are competing for a limited pool of funds. Now get this, more than 80% of these nonprofits have budgets less than $500,000, and more than 90% have budgets less than $2 million. This means the overwhelming majority of nonprofits have small budgets just like you. And like you, they have limited resources to compete with large nonprofits that have extensive fundraising budgets and staff. It's daunting, I know. The shocker? Really, 20% of all donations goes to the top 400 nonprofits. That's right, 20% of all giving goes to the top 400 nonprofits. That's crazy, right? And get this. Now, what happens to the other 80%? Well, more than 60% of that money goes to big healthcare institutions like hospitals, educational institutions like universities, religious organizations, and large cultural institutions like museums, zoos, and libraries. What's left over for small nonprofits like you? Well, not much, which is one of the reasons it's so damn hard to raise money. So if you have limited resources to raise money, it makes good sense to use your resources in the most effective and efficient manner possible, right? Look at this table. It shows a number of communication methods used to raise money. Each of these can be effective under certain circumstances. However, statistics show the most effective methods that lead to giving are one-on-one giving, like face-to-face giving, and small group events and parties. However, most small nonprofits like you spend less than 10% of your time using these methods. How much time are you using? Not nearly enough, I'm sure. Now, I suspect some of you spend the majority of your fundraising efforts writing grants and hosting galas, right? That's fine. Like I said, each fundraising method can be effective given the right circumstances. But have you figured out how efficient your grant writing process is, or how effective your last gala was? Let me share a story. When I was running Higher Ground, a program that helps wounded veterans, I applied for a $15,000 grant from a foundation to help sponsor one of my wounded veteran rehabilitation camps. Now get this. Their application was 62 pages long. I kid you not. This was my grant from hell, and I'm sure you've had one. And it took me 60 hours to complete it. But get this, then they had 4 reports they required, and each of those were 25 pages and took me 30 hours to produce. Can you believe it? That's just insane. Look at these numbers. I spent 210 hours on this grant, right? A $15,000 grant. So my income per hour was $71 an hour. But in the same time period, I took 60 donors out for one-on-one meetings and raised $935,000. That's just incredible. That comes out to almost $5,200 per hour, dozens and dozens of times more effective. Have you ever thought about this? How long does the average grant last? 2 or 3 years if you're lucky? But how long can a donor last? 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? They can even leave you a bequest. But you get so much more with a donor, right? I mean, they can provide time and money and skills and expertise and influence to your organization. They can be mission ambassadors and tell about all the great work that you're doing. And when they do that, they're influencing people in the community. They're making connections. And those lead to what? More time, money, skills, and expertise and influence for the organization. Donors give so much more value over the long haul than one grant. Now, let me tell you another story. This is a table that shows an assessment I did on an organization's gala that they held last year. They spent almost 3,000 hours on their gala. They grossed about $155,000. They had $85,000 in direct expenses, which netted about, $70,000. But after you subtract out their staff's time, they netted $17,000, which came out to about $5.80 an hour, which is just incredible. Now imagine if this organization broke up those hours in half, took that 3,000 hours and spent $1,500 doing a fundraiser or a fundraiser, or did some public outreach or something to promote their advocacy, right? And then they took the other half of the hours, like another 700 hours, and spent that in one-on-one settings or in small group events or parties. Imagine if they raised $250 an hour from all those meetings with those people, and they would raise almost, $175,000. And if they averaged $500 per person from 700 meetings, they would raise $350,000 versus $17,000? I mean, that's just incredible. Like I said, grants and galas can be very effective, and you should consider using them to raise money. But if you do so efficiently and effectively. But the most effective use of your time might be better spent doing more face-to-face asks. Why? Number one, it's one of the most effective ways to raise money. For example, if a person has an emotional connection to your nonprofit, there's a 70% chance they will say yes if you ask them for money in a face-to-face setting. If they volunteer in some capacity and you ask them for money at a location where your programming is taking place, there's a 90% chance they'll say yes. Those are insanely good odds. Number two, asking for money in a face-to-face setting gives donors a chance to see and feel your passion, build trust, and ask questions. People like to do business with people they like and trust. What better way to do that? Number three, it's an efficient use of resources. It can take thousands of hours to host a gala, as you saw, and dozens of hours to write a grant. But it only takes 1 hour to share a cup of coffee with a donor, or take them on a tour of your facility, or show them your programming in action. Remember, you have limited resources to raise money. So, do yourself a huge winning favor. Double or triple the amount of time you're spending on face-to-face ask. Call your donors. Take them out for lunch or coffee. Meet them at your office or theirs. Host a dinner party or a wine tasting, or take them on a facility tour or show them your programming in action. Nothing could be better. Do whatever it takes, but spend at least 30% or 50% of all your fundraising efforts in environments where you can ask people for money in face-to-face settings. That's your winning ticket. I've used every imaginable form of fundraising, and face-to-face fundraising has been my secret tactic that's helped me raise millions of dollars for the nonprofits I've started and run. It will help you too. I know it. Yes, you can still write grants and you can still host galas, but think of more ways to do those things efficiently and effectively. So here's my challenge to you. Assess and reallocate your fundraising resources in the next week. Then allocate a minimum of 30 to 40% of your fundraising efforts to face-to-face giving and hosting small group parties or events. If you do, the amount of money you'll raise will increase 5 to 10-fold in just 1 year. I guarantee it. And after your huge success, I want you to write me a success story or send me a video testimonial. Now, speaking of video testimonials, I want you to subscribe to my YouTube channel and share this video with a friend who could benefit from some good fundraising advice. Well, that's it. And remember, keep fueling your passion and giving back, because the world needs more people like you to make it a better place. Until next time, have an outstanding day.